Hey, what's up, Joey?
Hey man, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm all right. Good. Been a busy day. It's like everyone wants to do interviews today. It's like,
Oh
sure,
my
I
gosh,
I don't need
I
food.
like the beard.
It's sheer laziness and having the flu last that in December, but
Looks
for
cool though.
now, it stays. I'm always happy to talk to you. If you recall, I'm the one who was like imaginary heroes, the girl next door,
Yes,
like
yes.
the Mudge boy. You're like, oh, good. Let's talk about my past. But I think it's actually kind of relevant because I noticed, especially lately, I think the films are smaller, and I feel like it's intentional. And I wonder how much of it is earlier on. You made big movies. At a certain point, you do Speed Racer, you do even like Darkest Hour. Like they're big movies. There's special effects. There's big budgets. At a certain point, does that get boring? Is it like, all right, I'm acting, but I'm acting against nothing. I'd rather be acting against a person, against practical effects.
Well, I think it's undeniable that when you are making smaller films with really talented filmmakers like Ryuhei Kitamura, who directed Price We Pay, you're getting like all of the cinematic talent,
Yeah.
but by the nature of the shoot, you have a lot more freedom, right? So
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to answer to, a bunch of executives if you're working on script changes, concept changes, dialogue changes, all these types of things. And that on this film really, really made a huge difference because we knew we didn't have much time to shoot the film, but I knew that Ryuhi's an amazing director. So
Yeah.
I know he's going to take whatever script we have and he's going to execute it and it's going to be awesome. So for me, it was about working with Ryuhi and the writer and getting the script as awesome as we could possibly get it by the time we shot it, because whatever I knew, whatever we had, Roy was going to take it to another level.
Sure.
So it was just about getting it, as stretching it, as it's squeezing as much as we could out of it until we shot it.
Yeah.
And that is a process that, the amount of work that we did and the speed that we did it, you kind of can't do it. If there's any oversight at all, it would
Oh,
never be able to happen.
oh yeah. There,
And it was a very creatively rewarding part of the process to be able to kind of like be like, okay, this character is going to have dice, or okay, show up on the day and talk to Ryuhei and be like, you know what, let's not use a blade in the scene with the kid, let's use a gun. Okay, let's use a gun. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, what about Russian roulette? Let's make a scene about, let's center it around Russian roulette. All these types of things that we're actually able to do right when we're in it,
yeah.
getting ready for the day. A lot of the really, really big kind of memorable things were so in flux, and we had the freedom to change it rapidly. And that's something that, like, not every director is willing to like kind of go to that extent, but Ryuhei was just, he was so committed to finding the best version of anything. And he's got really great taste in terms of, if you give him three options, or three different ways of doing something, he knows the way that he's going to want to do that suits his style the most. And I don't know, I really like him.
Oh yeah, no, I remember watching the Midnight Meat Train years ago and being like, this is not a movie you see very often. And also, this particular way of doing this, I don't know anyone else who is going to make it this way. And to what you're saying, like, you this is not the movie where you could have everyone sitting around while someone makes a phone call to see if we can do something. There's just like, we're burning money we don't have. Like, this
Yeah,
is,
the
if it doesn't
speed.
involve, like you said, all the things you gave examples of, they're things that give the film personality, and all they are time. There's not a special effect in them necessarily. There's nothing that like requires a check. It's just like, all right, put something else in your hand. Do you want to try doing this? And it makes the character more interesting. That's what I imagine interested you here. Also, just playing this somewhat unhinged character in a way that's still vaguely realistic. Like, he's wild, but he's not necessarily movie wild.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for me, because he doesn't come across like the alpha male, almost like John Wayne-esque, which
Yeah,
in a way Dorf kind of does. And
totally the
so
fighter guy.
Alex is kind of the anti-masculine counterbalance, you could say. And the only reason why Alex is scary is really, it's sure, he does shoot a couple of people in the first scene.
Yeah.
Yes, that is scary, but a lot of it is also what he says.
Yeah.
It's a very like, you're scary just because he's saying these weirdly amusing, unsettling things, and you don't like the guy.
No.
And what I sort of like is that the first act is almost like a Tarantino throwback, Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to be wise guys. They're sort of like they're starring in their own movie, and they're giving each other these like witty quips and stuff. But they realize in the second act that they thought they're starring in their own movie, but they're actually starring in these guys' movie.
Exactly.
And it's sort of like that, the metaphor of like the little fish gets eaten by the bigger fish, but then like a really big fish comes and just eats
Right.
everyone.
It's such a throwback, no frills. Like, here's the movie you expect. I'm like you said, we're gonna do things like that, but we're also gonna give you the movie you want. Like, it's very much aware of what the audience is going for, and it's heartening to watch just because there's so few of them that get made. And granted, like, they're not for everyone. There's an audience that goes, oh, I don't want to watch a head explode, and like, I can't really argue with that. Just because I don't mind it doesn't mean that other people won't. But you're right. Everyone is sort of in their own movie until they realize they're in a completely different one, and it's a hard thing to pull off. That's a thing that, like, it almost takes a Tarantino. Like, you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, everyone is in their own movie. It just happens to be he's able to give you 5 minutes of like, oh, this is his movie, this is his movie, this is her movie, and you can just fall into it and just hang out with them. It's a lot harder to do in 80 minutes for a 100th of the budget. But the fact that you guys are doing it is,
Yeah, I mean, we're
exciting.
going for it,
Yeah.
and I think in terms of like the traditional slasher audience, I think
Yeah.
that the stuff that he pulls off in that third act with Gigi Zumbato and
Yeah.
Tyler Sanders is like that finale, that kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre-esque finale, is really like, for my money, especially the barbed wire sequence, that's one of the craziest, most satisfying kind of like all out massacre-ish, without giving anything away,
Yeah.
sequences. I really, I saw that, and I thought it was so well edited, and the sound design was so good, and the cinematography and the effects. I felt like, in terms of the horror element, that like maybe the first act kind of slow burns you on it, but by the end it's just like he's sitting there with the dynamite, like just pushing down on all of it.
It's the creativity of the gore, because at a certain point we've kind of seen everything, and you have
exactly.
you have your taste. Like I mean, I think, interestingly, I think you have a good eye for that, because Autopsy of Jane Doe is another one where it's just like, here's something in a way you haven't seen before, because you have seen almost every version of a weapon used on almost every version of a person, and it's the lo-fi of it all here. It's that it looks like practical effects. You have a couple things happen to you in this one where you sat in the makeup chair and they made you look gnarly. Like, there's something about that. It's tactile in a way that I'm sure for an actor, it's a million worlds away. We were talking about Speed Racer for a second. It's a million worlds away from, all right, you do you. We're gonna build it all around you. Here, we're gonna literally stick it on your face first.
Yeah, and it's the process of kind of having your face completely covered is a claustrophobic one, and it really does make it it's very unsettling and disorienting when you don't know where you are, and
How do you even
you're
spend
doing
like
a scene where you're being hunted.
Yeah, like, because I imagine it takes time. So like, if you're gonna sit there for a couple hours, how do you, it's not even like when people are putting on body makeup, a lot of times you can read, you listen to music. At a certain point, they're working on your face. You're just kind of sitting still. How do you get into that and just not feel miserable the whole day?
Well, I think I just sort of was like, I sort of just accepted that I wasn't going to see anything, and it was more just like listening to other people and focusing on the tone of their voices and sort of seeing how different they were. And that the sequence with Alex, my character at the end, I found was really satisfying, because we had developed the idea that Alex is a guy who, everything is life or death with a game of dice. He's almost, it's like the magic 8 ball before he makes every decision. And so he's a guy who would really appreciate a higher predator also playing a game of
Oh
life
yeah.
or death. So when he finally is given the knife by Jody, he gets it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's like the perfect player of the game because it's a way that he's kind of lived his own life with the people that he kind of goes after as well.
And it's a different exercise, I think, for you because I mean, some of it I'm sure is you get offered things you've already done before. That's the nature of being an actor. People want you to do the same thing a million times, but a lot of your roles are people who sit back and then maybe have to be pulled out of their comfort zone to then act. I'm definitely not thinking of The Girl Next Door, or even just like Jay in Once Upon a Time. He's literally slow playing like one day I'll get her, but I'll be here until this is literally the opposite of like no, I don't really almost care what happens, but I'm gonna make the next thing happen. And whether it's Russian roulette or like a duel to the death, essentially, it's like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. Like there's something about watching a character do that and also playing it, I imagine, is just more fun because it's not necessarily how we are as people.
Yeah, I mean the extremes of the character were a lot of fun, and then finding dialogue that would kind of match this, that would sort of, a character with a kind of a wry sense of humor. He
Yeah.
sort of observes these crazy things, and he's in these horrible situations, but he's still kind of like processing it all through his sociopathic wry sense of humor, which is kind of satisfying in a way that he
Oh, yeah.
doesn't like completely give away who he is. But
He's
it was
consistent.
it was kind of crazy though, because we shot the Russian roulette scene
Yeah.
in New Mexico a couple months before Rust even happened,
Yeah.
with a revolver, dummy rounds in the
Oh, yeah.
revolver. Me and this other actor are literally playing a game of Russian
Yeah.
roulette. And that was a situation where, I think we might have even had certain people on the crew that were like on that team or
Oh, yeah.
something like that. I don't know the specifics, but I just remember, like they would give me the dummy rounds, and like when you're playing Russian roulette, like you're like really, really paranoid,
Yeah.
especially I'm aiming the weapon at Tyler.
Yeah. When it has the right
So
heft, it's like it feels right, and you're like, oh,
I
there's
mean,
something
it's
about
right
that.
for the scene, but it's, when you're shooting, I mean, I remember they would, let me see it, and I would like shake and
Yeah.
like hear the individual pieces of the dummy round, because the dummy round, shakes around a lot. I was like really, really,
Like,
it was even in the most controlled circumstance, it's still very nerve-wracking to do a scene like that.
oh, yeah, because you're holding it and it has the weight that you're expecting and pointing it
Yeah.
at yourself or anyone else. It's just it's not you have there's something in your body just telling you like, nope, that's not where that's supposed to go. Like, because anytime anyone's ever held one, a real one, whether it's a range or training for something. I mean, Lone Survivor, I'm sure you had to train with it. There's
Yeah.
there's a million times they'll have it in your head. It goes that way at the thing. It never goes at a person. It never goes towards you. It never like there's enough things that when you have to do the opposite, I'm sure it's just like, okay, I have to sort of train myself to do the thing that I don't like my body is telling me not to. It's a
Yeah, it feels insanely wrong. You're like
yeah.
violating every safety rule you've ever like learned
They don't
handling
have to
weapons
put the sweat on
responsibly.
you with makeup. You're just like, no, I'm the shirt is
Yeah. And the
like
actor in the scene with Tyler Sanders, unfortunately, he's tragic, passed away since we shot the movie. A wonderful young man, great guy, super talented. He was so good. We had such a great time working together, even though, in the scenes I'm sort of tormenting him. We really got along great, and we had a lot of fun and a lot of laughs. And he was really, really fantastic.
and you can't, I think, have that good a scene unless you're getting along with someone. Like if you're especially a hassle or an antagonistic scene, you really do need to have a bond with someone. Otherwise, it not even feels wrong. It doesn't zing the right way. Like if you're it's just, same in real life. Think about it. You get way more out of like teasing your friends, like arguing with your friends. It's way more of a it's not even intense, but it feels more organic than if you like at this grocery store and someone cuts you in a line and you end up yelling at them. It always feels like
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing this.
And I agree with you, and I think that especially when you're doing scenes like that where there's this like intimate intensity, if you get along really well with someone, they're going to be comfortable and they're going to actually be able to like act scared better because they feel comfortable to act. They're not like, I think like one of the least productive things that I've seen before is like if actors are trying to like play like a bully or something like that, and they like try to sort of like have that vibe with the other actor. I've seen it happen before, and it does not make the actors better at all.
No.
It's really counterproductive. And I sort of feel like it's like some holdover bullshit from like the New York scene where they all think that they're like Lee Strasberg and Stella Adler acolytes, but
Leather
like,
jacket, put all the way up. Like I'm a
yeah,
tough
but
guy, and
like,
I'm going to show
but
you
like
how.
they don't realize that like they're not making it better at all, and they're just
No,
like the pretentious idiots.
just calling attention to it. But it's the same. I imagine with romantic scenes. Like if you don't have some kind of like chemistry with them, even if it's just chatting and laughing and going, "Oh, we both like Springsteen. That's cool." Or we both hate this dude. Great. If you just met someone that day, and, okay, kiss. It's never gonna seem right. You're gonna
Yeah,
be like, "Am I?"
you can kind of tell when people like each other. It's just like one of those things. It's like if and I'm not even talking about any kind of romantic anything
No,
like that,
just
or even a sexual thing.
respect
It's
or
just like
enjoyment
if
of
you just
someone.
like a person,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If you just appreciate them in any kind of way.
It'll always go better. And listen, I always love doing this. I really like this movie as just a gritty like 70s feeling. Like here's a movie. It almost feels like you found it from the 70s. Like here's this like thriller that you didn't know existed, and I had a great time with it. It knows what it is, and listen, there's something about getting to watch you be a bad dude that I was all about. So
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think it was a kind of a really kind of fluid process, and I think Ryuhei was really ready to kind of go for it in a lot of ways, and he did.
it does not play it safe, but you guys should be very proud, and I look forward to the next time. I'm sure you got more of these to do. So
Yeah,
congrats.
yeah. Thank you so much, Joey.
Oh, my pleasure. Always fun to talk, man.
All right, bye bye.
All right, take care.